Have you ever felt that invisible tension that pushes you relentlessly, but you can't explain where it comes from? As if there were a flame inside you consuming your energy without letting you breathe, taking you further and further away from who you really are. In a world where masculinity is reduced to a mere question of performance and desires to be satisfied, the modern man's mind is trapped in an invisible prison made of uncontrolled impulses and imposed needs. We are surrounded by images, advertisements, films, and social media that scream a single pressing message. To be a man, you must desire, conquer, and possess. But this silent obsession with immediate pleasure is a subtle trap, capable of confusing the true essence of masculinity with a constant escape towards ephemeral and fleeting gratification. Carl Jung would have warned us, what you do not face in your unconscious will govern you from within, shaping your destiny without you even realizing it. If you do not learn to recognize and channel your sexual desire, you risk becoming a slave to a force that devours you from within, like a river in flood without banks that sweeps away everything in its path. Modern man, convinced that he is free, is in reality imprisoned by a fire that burns relentlessly, consuming his vital energy in empty pursuits and temporary gratifications. This is not just superficial actions or behavior, but a precious energy that is wasted and burned, leaving only ashes behind. It is as if an invisible thief is stealing his power while he is distracted, attracted by an easy and apparent but illusory happiness. Recognizing this mechanism is the first act of courage. It is like waking up from a dream you have been living for years, only to discover that what you believed to be real was actually a subtle deception. Jung invites us not to flee from the shadow of this desire, but to look it in the eye and listen to it without fear. Because what you repress within yourself will ultimately possess you more powerfully than what you express freely. It is not about denying sexuality, but about not allowing it to become the tyrant of your mind and your life. This first step of awareness, recognizing the silent manipulation of desire and stopping to observe it, is the beginning of a journey towards a more authentic and profound freedom. True strength does not lie in fulfilling the roles imposed by a pleasure-obsessed society, nor in endlessly chasing superficial gratification. True strength lies in reclaiming your energy, recognizing it as part of yourself, but not as your master. Only then can the mind begin to desexualize itself, not as a denial of desire, but as an awakening and conscious choice of who you are beyond your instincts and compulsions. In this realization lies the secret of an inner power that no external stimulus can ever scratch. Sublimation is that mysterious alchemical transition that transforms the raw power of sexual energy into something immensely greater, higher, purer. Carl Jung saw it as a secret, almost magical art, capable of transforming a primordial impulse into world-changing creations. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, Nietzsche, Freud, men who took the same energy that many would waste on fleeting pleasures, and shaped it into masterpieces of art, philosophy, and science. The mind that knows how to sublimate is not a dead or repressed mind, but an ardent, incandescent mind, absolutely focused. It is no longer driven by blind urgency, but by a deep and conscious vision. It is as if it has lit a sacred fire that illuminates and warms without consuming itself unnecessarily. This capacity for transformation has often been forgotten in the chaos of the modern world, which prefers immediacy to depth, gratification to waiting. Yet those who have mastered this form of discipline have always recognized the value of patience and channeling. Sublimation is the art of not falling victim to one's desires, but of taking possession of them and turning them into fuel for an inner revolution. Like a raging river that, when properly channeled, can power mills and generate energy, so sexual energy, when transformed, fuels creativity, spirituality, and mental strength. It is the difference between being prey to impulses and becoming the architect of one's own destiny. This is not repression, which Jung condemned as a source of neurosis, but a conscious and powerful transformation. It is an act of profound courage, because it involves looking within oneself, recognizing one's most animalistic urges and deciding to elevate them. It is a challenge to a world that wants you to be a slave to immediate pleasure, that wants you to always be hungry and dissatisfied. Those who liberate themselves through sublimation become new people, no longer victims, but masters of themselves, their energy and their time. The desexualized mind, therefore, is not a cold or dead mind, but a mind burning with a more powerful inner light, capable of seeing beyond the horizon of pleasure and superficiality. In this sense, sublimation becomes the keystone of every great human endeavor, the secret behind the greatest leaders, artists, and thinkers. The ability to transform sexual energy into vision and action is what has made them immortal. Because, as Jung said, energy that is not expressed through creativity and transformation manifests itself in destructive forms. But those who know how to sublimate build a bridge between instinct and spirit, between flesh and soul, between desire and destiny. This is the hidden power that the modern world ignores, but which conscious human beings can rediscover to become truly free. In an age that celebrates instinct as the only compass, the true act of rebellion is learning to tame what moves you inside. Carl Jung teaches us that it is not a matter of repressing or denying sexuality, but of transforming it with awareness. The man who can recognize his impulses without being a prisoner to them is the one who has found the key to the most authentic personal power. Imagine the mind as a harp. Every sexual impulse that is held back and channeled becomes a vibrating string that can play melodies of discipline, creativity, and magnetism. It is not a struggle against oneself, but a deep dialogue with one's own nature, an alliance that transforms tension into vital force. This conscious control is not cold detachment, but an intense and vibrant presence. Those who master their sexual energy do not lose passion, but reinvent it, opening it up to broader horizons. It is like a river that, instead of dispersing into 1,000 rivulets, concentrates into a powerful and direct current. This concentration generates a rare mental clarity, an aura that attracts without effort. People perceive this invisible power, that certain something that makes a man magnetic, charismatic, almost mysterious. It is not burning desire that conquers, but the calmness of a mind that knows how to wait, that knows how to choose. In today's society, where everything pushes towards instant gratification and compulsive pursuit, mastering sexual energy is a revolutionary act. It means breaking invisible chains, escaping from the prison of incessant need. It is a path of self-discipline that requires courage and patience, but which rewards you with unparalleled inner power. Every impulse, consciously restrained, becomes a reserve of energy to be invested in projects, dreams, and personal growth. It is a force that transforms into resilience, determination, and a charismatic presence that needs no words to be felt. Those who have been able to sublimate their sexual energy develop a magnetism that cannot be easily explained. It is an aura of mystery and strength that attracts, but without the need to pursue or coerce. This is the desexualized mind, not a mind that has lost desire, but a mind that has transformed it into power. A power that comes from control, awareness, and the ability to stay centered. In a world that confuses power with domination or conquest, the man who knows how to dominate himself becomes a natural, irresistible, and free force. For Carl Jung, sexuality is not a problem to be eliminated or ignored, but one of the most powerful and complex dimensions of the shadow that dwells within us. The shadow represents everything we reject or do not recognize in ourselves, and sexuality hides desires, fears, guilt, and impulses that we often avoid facing out of fear or shame. Jung invites us to look into this abyss without fear, because only then can we discover who we really are. The desexualization of the mind is therefore not the denial of desire, but the beginning of a sincere and profound dialogue with our animal side, with that instinctual part that, when integrated, makes us whole. Many men lose themselves in the traps of modernity, compulsive pornography, toxic relationships, paralyzing guilt. These are the external manifestations of an unrecognized sexual shadow that escapes our awareness and dominates our lives without us noticing. But Jung teaches us that it is precisely in the deepest darkness that the light of transformation lies. Facing one's sexual shadow means stopping running away from one's impulses and beginning to understand their origin, their function, and their message. It is a journey of courage, requiring humility and honesty, but one that opens the door to true inner freedom. In this integration, desire is no longer experienced as a chaotic force to be repressed or impulsively discharged, but as a vital energy to be known and transformed. The mind that has encountered its sexual shadow no longer needs to seek external gratification to feel alive. Instead, it finds deep peace in silence and incredible strength in emptiness. This mind knows how to be with itself, with its impulses and shadows, without being overwhelmed by them. It is a mind that has made peace with its dark side, welcoming it as an essential part of its being. Only by integrating the sexual shadow can man stop being a slave to destructive impulses and begin to live with authenticity and power. The desexualization of the mind is therefore not a renunciation, but a conquest of the self. It is the transition from a life governed by uncontrolled desire to a life guided by awareness and inner balance. This process, so dear to Jung, is one of the deepest and most difficult paths to personal freedom and authentic fulfillment. There is a paradoxical truth at the heart of existence. The man who no longer seeks to seduce or pursue becomes precisely what attracts the most. It is not a simple matter of strategy or appearance, but a profound phenomenon that arises from inner centering and peace with oneself. When a man stops chasing his sexual impulses with anxiety and need, he creates an energy field around himself that resonates with strength and authenticity. This invisible magnetism is a draw for those who perceive his calm, his presence, and his integrity. It is as if he has discovered a secret source of power, a light that does not burn but attracts effortlessly. The desexualized mind is calm and focused, not because it is devoid of desire, but because it has learned to observe its urges without being enslaved by them. This inner freedom creates a space where one can truly listen to others, where one can look at the world with new and deeper eyes. The relationships born of this centering are different from those dictated by dependence or fear of loss. They are encounters between two complete beings who do not seek in the other what they lack in themselves. It is a form of love that arises from fulfillment, conscious choice, and authentic presence. The man who has stopped chasing does not lose power, he multiplies it. He is no longer a victim of his chaotic emotions or fleeting desires, but becomes a beacon of stability and strength. This magnetism has deep roots in personal transformation, energetic discipline, and the ability to stay centered. It is a power that cannot be seen but felt. It cannot be measured but lived. And those who experience it cannot help but be attracted to it, because in the face of that calm, all tensions melt away, and a space of authenticity and truth opens up. In this sense, the desexualized mind becomes a creative and powerful mind. capable of shaping a new life, free from conditioning and the invisible chains of uncontrolled desire. The aura that emanates from it is living testimony to a man who has chosen his own freedom, who has made peace with his body and soul. It is a magnetism that cannot be bought or faked, but only conquered by walking the path of awareness and integration. Many people are unaware that sexual energy is not just a physical or biological force, but one of the most powerful keys to influencing the reality around us. According to ancient spiritual traditions and esoteric teachings, this energy, when held and channeled with awareness, becomes a powerful catalyst for the manifestation of our deepest desires. The law of attraction, which teaches us to vibrate in alignment with what we want to attract, responds extraordinarily to those who know how to manage their energy potential. The desexualized mind vibrates at higher frequencies because it no longer disperses its energy in uncontrolled desires, but directs it towards clear and powerful goals. Traditions such as Tantra and inner alchemy speak of transforming the retained seed into light, intuition, and creation. This transmutation is a sacred act, a passage from matter to spirituality, from impulse to awareness. It is not about denying or repressing, but about elevating, using that primitive energy to fuel the inner fire of creativity, vision, and personal fulfillment. In this way, modern man can transcend the mere satisfaction of immediate pleasure and become a conscious co-creator of his own destiny. When you learn to recognize and retain sexual energy, you raise your vibrational field, expanding your ability to attract situations, people, and opportunities in tune with your growth. It is not magic, but a subtle and profound science, an energetic dance between mind, body, and universe. The desexualized mind is not cold or distant, but intense, luminous, vibrant with potential. Every impulse held back with awareness becomes a seed for the future, a message sent to the universe that says, "I am ready to receive what I deserve." From this perspective, energy discipline becomes a bridge between the inner and outer worlds, between the unconscious and the conscious, between desire and manifestation. It is an invitation to rediscover the power hidden within us, to recognize that true strength does not lie in satisfying every impulse, but in transforming it into light. This is why the desexualized mind is a mind that can change the course of its own life and, in some way, the whole world. Modern science confirms what Carl Jung intuited with his profound wisdom. The relationship between sexual energy and the mind is much more complex than we might think. In particular, the role of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation and reward, is central to how our brain responds to sexual stimuli. When we are constantly bombarded with images, videos, and stimuli that excite our sexuality, the brain becomes desensitized. It is as if the volume has been turned up too high for too long, and eventually we lose the ability to really feel. This overstimulation leads to a decrease in motivation, a reduction in mental clarity, and a sense of emptiness that many people today are familiar with. Conscious abstinence, practiced not as repression but as a choice, acts instead as a powerful reset for our dopaminergic system. Freeing ourselves from addiction to constant stimuli allows the brain to rebalance itself, to return to responding with greater intensity and quality to the experiences that really matter. It is a path that requires discipline and awareness, but one that rewards with a rebirth of vitality, a clearer and more focused mind, capable of facing life with genuine energy. In this sense, a desexualized mind is a mind that frees itself from background noise, a mind that rediscovers its true voice and its authentic drive. This neuroscientific transformation also has profound emotional and psychological implications. When dopamine stabilizes, the compulsive search for immediate pleasure is reduced, and the ability to find satisfaction in small things, in calmness and in presence, increases. The brain becomes less dependent on external gratification and more rooted in an inner balance. This balance is essential for those who want to sublimate their sexual energy, transforming it into creativity, discipline, and personal magnetism. It is not a renunciation, but an enhancement of one's nature. Ultimately, science and psychology agree that desexualizing the mind is an act of deep self-care. It is like removing a distracting interference from a precious signal. The signal of our true essence, of our ability to be present, to act wisely and to create a full and meaningful life. It is the path that leads from slavery to pleasure to conscious self-mastery. We live in an age dominated by excess of stimuli, information, and immediate desires that seem to never end. In this chaos, modern man risks losing himself, enslaved by his own impulses and a pleasure that consumes without nourishing. But Carl Jung left us a fundamental legacy. True personal fulfillment does not come from the gratification of desires, but from their transmutation. It is a path that requires courage, discipline, and a deep knowledge of oneself, a journey towards inner mastery. The future of man will not be marked by how much he conquers or how many superficial experiences he accumulates, but by who succeeds in conquering his own inner self. It will not be the man who craves, but the one who knows how to wait, transform, and direct his own energy. This transformation is what makes the desexualized mind dangerous, not in the sense of weakness or deprivation, but as an explosive force, pure and free from invisible chains. The man who masters himself has everything to create, because he has nothing left to lose. This new figure is a natural leader, not because he exercises power over others, but because he exercises power over himself. He is a man who has rediscovered the ancient wisdom of balance between the inner and outer worlds, who lives with authenticity and depth. His presence needs no confirmation. His magnetism comes from his centeredness, from the peace he has found in inner silence. This peace is true wealth, the source of all creativity and authentic relationships. Finally, the future of modern man is a challenge and an invitation to escape the trap of ephemeral pleasure and embrace the transformative power of sexual energy, to become masters of ourselves and architects of an existence that resonates with the deepest meaning of being. Jung has shown us the way. Now it is up to us to walk it with awareness, courage, and love for our shadow and our light. Looking within ourselves, facing our shadow, and transforming our sexual energy is not an easy path. It is a journey that tests us, challenging every certainty and every comfort. But it is also the most powerful way to free ourselves from the invisible chains that society, the mind, and the body impose on us. A desexualized mind is not a renunciation of pleasure, but a secret weapon of power, an inner fire that burns without consuming, a force capable of creating, attracting, and manifesting life in all its depth. Carl Jung taught us that true freedom comes from integrating all parts of ourselves, even the darkest and least understood. Only by embracing our sexual side with awareness can we finally stop chasing illusions and start living our most authentic truth. In this space, strength is no longer scattered but concentrated, becoming the engine of a life that does not follow the world but creates it. If you have come this far, it means that within you there is already a desire to change, to break the cycle and choose the road less traveled. It is not a path for everyone, but for those who dare, for those who truly want to become their own master. I invite you to take this step with courage, because the transformation that awaits you is greater than you can imagine. The desexualized mind is your new ally. The power is within you, ready to be awakened.